$25 million. That's how much Shedeur Sanders was reportedly offered just to walk away from the Cleveland Browns after they dismissed him during the draft process. Let that number sink in. A quarterback prospect, passed over by a franchise in desperate need of a long-term solution, ends up with a bigger bag for not playing than most rookies get for suiting up. This wasn't a leaked rumor or internet exaggeration. It's been confirmed by multiple insiders, including Shannon Sharpe.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Who hinted that there's a lot more happening behind closed doors than anyone's letting on. And while the league tries to catch its breath, one thing is crystal clear. Shedeur Sanders just flipped the NFL script before ever playing a down. So, how did a fifth-round projected quarterback become the most powerful rookie in the game? It started with Baltimore. The Ravens, who were eyeing Sanders for a late-round selection, got an unexpected response. Sanders let it be known he didn't want to go, not because the team was bad, not because the opportunity wasn't prestigious, but because the timing wasn't right. With Lamar Jackson firmly planted as a starter and the identity of that franchise, Sanders knew he'd be locked into a backup role for the foreseeable future. Years of sitting, learning, and watching from the sideline. That's not the path he wanted. That's not how you build momentum, especially as a quarterback trying to stake your claim in a crowded league. So he passed. Politely, strategically, firmly. That alone raised eyebrows. Then came Cleveland, with Joe Flacco and Deshaun Watson both struggling. Watson with injuries and inconsistency. Flacco with age and limitations. The Browns were one of the most quarterback-needy teams in the league. On paper, they were a perfect landing spot for a player like Sanders. High upside, long-term potential, a franchise that needed direction. Instead, they dismissed him. No deeper conversation. No late-round gamble. No exploration of the fit. Just a pass. And within days of that dismissal, Sanders was fielding an offer reportedly worth $25 million. Not a contract to play. Not an endorsement deal. But a deal designed to keep him from walking into a dysfunctional situation and wasting his early career. An offer to walk away. To stay available. To wait for something better. This was more than just money. It was leverage. And that's something most rookies don't get, especially not when projected outside the top rounds. But Shedeur is not most rookies. And this is a normal case. What Sanders did, what he's doing, is forcing the NFL to look in the mirror, because the entire structure of the draft is built on team control. They pick, you go, you suit up, stay quiet, and hope you get a shot eventually. But Sanders said no. Twice. He said no to being hidden behind Lamar Jackson. He said no to joining a Browns franchise that can't stabilize its quarterback room. And in doing that, he said yes to protecting his own value. And look where it's gotten him. The Ravens have Lamar, so no one's blaming them for moving forward. But Cleveland, they're the cautionary tale. They had a chance to look ahead, to build for the future. Instead, they passed on one of the few rookies in recent memory who came into the league with a clear plan and the confidence to follow through on it. Now they're stuck. Watson remains unreliable. Flacco's just a stopgap, and there's no long-term answer in sight. Meanwhile, Sanders' refusal to fall into the typical rookie trap is being hailed as a smart business move across the league, not just because he avoided bad fits, but because he saw what most young players never get the chance to see, the long game. It's the kind of thinking we usually associate with veterans, players who've been through multiple teams, guys who've been burned by bad coaching, mismanaged injuries, or front office dysfunction. But Shedeur saw it coming and acted accordingly before the damage was done. That's not luck. That's awareness. It's also the beginning of a much bigger shift. This whole situation, Sanders declining Baltimore, walking away from Cleveland, and landing a $25 million offer in the aftermath, isn't just a headline. It's a blueprint, a signal that the NFL is entering a new era, where elite prospects don't just accept their fate, they shape it. And it raises some uncomfortable questions. What does this mean for the future of the draft? Can teams still rely on players to go where they're told, even if the fit is clearly wrong? Are front offices prepared to deal with prospects who negotiate their futures before they're even drafted? Because Sanders isn't the only one watching. Future rookies are paying attention. Agents are paying attention. And if Sanders' gamble pays off, if he lands with a stable, smart, forward-thinking team that builds around him, then this won't be a one-time disruption. This will be the new model. Meanwhile, back in Cleveland, the irony couldn't be heavier. They passed on Sanders without blinking, then got blown out 41-17 by Baltimore, the same team Sanders turned down, and watched Lamar Jackson remind the world what a true franchise quarterback looks like. The contrast was brutal. Baltimore with a plan, Cleveland with a question mark. And the most painful part? The quarterback they could have had is now being viewed as one of the most poised, prepared, and self-aware young players in the conversation. It's not just a PR miss. It's a strategic failure. And if that $25 million offer had come before the draft, maybe Cleveland takes things more seriously. Maybe they look twice. But now they're on the outside looking in. Because it's clear that Sanders is no longer just an unsigned prospect. He's an asset, a brand, a long-term investment that someone, whoever made that offer, wants to control before the rest of the league figures it out. And let's be clear, someone will. Eventually, a team will come knocking with the right setup, a stable coaching staff, a development plan, a quarterback situation that needs a real solution. And when that happens, Sanders is going to walk into that locker room, not just as a rookie, but as the most anticipated debut in recent memory. Because this isn't just about arm strength. It's about the statement he's already made. I won't just play. I'll play where I can win. That's what separates this story from every other offseason headline. The decision wasn't about ego. It was about fit, longevity, control, and whether you agree with it or not, the impact is undeniable. We are watching a rookie who took control of his own story before it was written for him. Now it's your turn. Was Shedeur Sanders right to walk away? Should Cleveland have taken him seriously when they had the chance? And who do you think dropped that $25 million deal to keep him out of the Browns' orbit? Drop your take in the comments below. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button. Because if this is how the league is moving now, you won't want to miss what comes next. Shedeur Sanders, a fifth-round ejection, should have been quietly drafted, stashed behind a veteran starter, and added to a roster as a developmental piece. That's how it's always been done. That's what the NFL expects from guys like him. Take the hat, smile at the cameras, say the right things, and hope for a shot someday. But instead, he flipped the entire league dynamic without stepping on the field. And he did it in the most high-stakes way possible. He said no. Not once. Twice. First to the Ravens, who had a plan to pick him in the 5th round. A team that wins, that's well-run, that most prospects dream of joining. But Sanders saw the bigger picture. He saw Lamar Jackson, in his prime, dominating the offense, and he knew what that meant for anyone drafted behind him. A permanent seat on the sideline. He said no. Then came the Browns. Quarterback chaos. Injuries. Panic. No identity. And yet, they still brush him off. They didn't even engage. Didn't evaluate the long-term upside. Didn't think about what Sanders could have brought to a team that clearly needed help at the most important position in the game. They dismissed him. And now Shedeur Sanders is the most valuable and signed player in the league, and someone just offered him $25 million to walk away from Cleveland entirely. This isn't just a twist. It's a plot reversal. The player dismissed by one of the NFL's most desperate quarterback rooms is suddenly the one turning teams away. And if you don't think that shakes front offices to their core, you haven't been paying attention to how the league handles power. Because here's what this moment truly exposes. NFL teams are no longer the only ones making the rules. For the first time, players at the entry point of their careers are starting to realize they don't have to accept a bad fit, just because that's what the draft dictates. Shedeur is not playing the game like a 5th-round pick. He's playing like a free agent who knows his market value, and more importantly, knows the risk of signing with the wrong team. The league isn't used to that kind of leverage coming from someone this young. And the Browns? They're left scrambling. Again, the quarterback situation in Cleveland has become a full-blown identity crisis. Deshaun Watson was supposed to be the answer. They gave him everything money, power, guarantees. And in return, they got a walking question mark. Injuries, inconsistency, doubt. Add Joe Flacco into the mix. And now you're just layering temporary fixes on top of long-term problems. So when Shedeur Sanders was dismissed during the draft process, that wasn't just a missed opportunity. It was organizational negligence, the kind of misstep that haunts a franchise for years. And now, they're watching the player they passed on become the hottest what-if in the league. Meanwhile, Sanders' career is unfolding like a masterclass in modern athlete strategy. He declined a draft position that would have buried him behind an MVP. He dodged a franchise drowning in dysfunction. And now he's sitting on an offer worth more than most rookie deals just to stay available. You know what that says? It says he's not desperate. It says he's not chasing a jersey just to say he made it. He's waiting, studying, choosing. And when you combine that with talent, that's dangerous. This isn't just about throwing a football. It's about knowing the system and refusing to be steamrolled by it. Because let's not forget, Shedeur had every reason to play it safe. He could have taken a Ravens offer, learned under Lamar, and disappeared into a backup role. He could have jumped into Cleveland's QB mess and hoped to earn a shot amid the chaos. But instead, he played chess while the league was still playing checkers. And that $25 million offer, that's the proof. That's the price someone is willing to pay to keep him from being misused, to protect his potential, to ensure he's not just used by a team, but featured by the right one. Now let's address the question everyone's been afraid to ask. Who's behind the offer? We don't know, not officially, but we do know this. The NFL doesn't operate in isolation. There are always third parties, sponsors, agencies, media conglomerates, power players who want to attach themselves to a rising star before he takes over the spotlight. So whether the team preparing to make a future play or a group invested in Sanders' off-field brand, the $25 million isn't just money. It's strategy. It's a stake in what comes next. And what comes next could define the next era of NFL quarterback play. Because at this point, Shedeur isn't just choosing where to play. He's shaping how rookies think about entering the league. He's proven you can say no. You can walk away. You can demand the right fit before the league tries to mold you into something else. And that's going to leave an impact. Next year's prospects, they're watching. Agents, already drafting new talking points. And teams, they're going to have to evolve. Because when a fifth-round projected quarterback can generate this much noise, this much leverage, and this much value before ever stepping on the field, it's no longer about the round you're picked. It's about the vision you bring with you. Shedeur brought vision, strategy, self-respect. And now the league is responding, slowly, awkwardly, reluctantly, but it's responding. That's why this isn't just a Cleveland Browns story. It's a league story, a blueprint for every young quarterback who wants more than just a helmet and a clipboard. And when Sanders does make his debut, because let's be clear, that moment is coming, it won't just be about talent. It'll be about everything he represents. Player control, career ownership, and the start of a future where players aren't just chosen, they choose back. So what now? Well, Cleveland will keep spinning. They'll keep patching together short-term answers and pretending everything's fine. But they'll remember this. The league will remember this. And fans? They'll always have the receipts. They'll remember the player who said no twice. They'll remember the $25 million offer that validated it all. And they'll be watching when Shedeur finally steps onto the field, not just to see how he throws, but to see if this model works. And if it does, the entire structure of the draft might be next. So let's wrap it here with a real takeaway. This isn't a story about a missed draft pick. It's a warning shot. And it's up to the league to decide whether to learn from it or keep fumbling futures. What Shedeur Sanders did wasn't a one-and-done headline. It wasn't a viral flashpoint that fizzles out by Sunday. This is a slow-burning, league-altering moment that has already created ripple effects. And those ripples are turning into waves. Because the situation, it's not just about a rookie turning down teams. It's about a rookie teaching the league that they need him more than he needs them. And for a league that prides itself on control, hierarchy, and a next man up mentality, that's a threat. That's an earthquake. That's a power shift most front offices weren't ready for. So let's talk about the Browns again. Because if any franchise should have understood the value of planning for the future, it's them. The quarterback position in Cleveland hasn't just been unstable, it's been chaotic. They've cycled through starters like it's a bad Tinder streak. Baker Mayfield, Case Keenum, Jacoby Brissett, Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco. The list goes on, and so does the dysfunction. Yet, when Sanders became available, they didn't lean in. They didn't make the call. They didn't even leave the door cracked open. They dismissed him. That word, dismissed, is important. It's not just that they passed. It's that they reportedly shut it down before it even started. No dialogue. No interest. No flexibility. And now, they're the team being discussed on every segment, podcast, and panel as the franchise that let Shedeur Sanders walk, and then watched him walk into $25 million. And don't think other players aren't watching. This isn't just about Shedeur anymore. This is about every college star who's now wondering if they can do the same. If they can skip the broken systems. If they can avoid the QB rooms full of quicksand. If they can wait for the right offer. Or even create one. Because if you're a top-tier college quarterback in today's world, the equation has changed. You're not just hoping to get picked up. You're asking, where will I thrive? Who will build around me? Who actually has a plan? And when those questions don't have answers, players are learning to walk away. That's what Shedeur just proved. Walking away isn't failure. It's strategy. Meanwhile, the Browns are trying to make sense of the mess. Watson's timeline is a mystery. Flacco is duct tape. The fan base is exhausted. And the guy who could have offered real stability, he's now the most valuable and signed quarterback in the league because of how he handled all of this. And that brings us back to the $25 million. It's more than just money. It's confirmation. It's the league saying, you were right. You played this perfectly. And we're willing to pay just to make sure no one else gets it before we do. It's wild, but it's real. Think about how many quarterbacks never get this kind of shot because they accepted the wrong one too early. Think of how many promising careers were derailed by bad coaching, poor schemes, and rush development. The NFL is brutal to rookies, especially quarterbacks, and Shedeur saw that coming from a mile away. He chose not to get chewed up by it. And while old-school analysts will call it arrogance, anyone paying attention knows it's business. It's maturity. It's knowing that your first contract doesn't define your career, but your first situation does. And the moment Sanders declined to be drafted by the Ravens and got dismissed by Cleveland, he flipped the system's expectations upside down. He made the teams chase him. That's never been the dynamic, not for a rookie, especially not a day 3 projection. But here we are, and now his value is climbing by the day because timing is everything. And Sanders has perfect timing. He didn't attach himself to a crumbling franchise. He didn't say yes just to get in the door. And because of that, when inevitable quarterback injuries start happening, when starters go down, when depth charts thin out, when desperation starts to spread, he'll still be available. Available, healthy, and holding leverage. He becomes the most desirable option without ever taking a hit. No film to expose flaws. No bad throws to break down. Just upside. Just intrigue. Just a player who said no to the noise and waited for the moment that actually makes sense. And when it comes, it's going to be loud. Because the moment Shedeur Sanders steps on the field, it won't just be a rookie debut. It'll be a full-circle moment. The kid who didn't bend to the machine now becomes the face of what's next. And you better believe the league will act like they weren't on it the whole time. They'll say they knew he was smart, that he had it, that he handled things professionally, that his maturity was always obvious. But let's be honest, most of them missed it. Just like Cleveland missed it. Just like Baltimore misunderstood it. Just like every other franchise that still thinks draft position equals obedience. And that's why this story matters. It's not just an NFL subplot. It's a turning point. Because if Shedeur wins, and by all accounts he's already winning, the whole league has to recalibrate. Prospects won't just line up to be drafted. They'll negotiate their way in. And that terrifies teams who've been operating under the assumption that rookies don't have the power to say no. Now, they do. And the more we see players like Sanders control their narratives and get rewarded for it, the harder it'll be to put this movement back in the box. Because this wasn't just about avoiding a bad team. It was about creating options. It was about stepping back and saying, if the situation isn't right, I'll wait. I won't panic. I won't beg. I'll bet on myself. That kind of composure is rare, especially when a league is dangling fame, money, and a fast track to the spotlight. But Sanders saw past that. He saw what happens when you enter the league on someone else's terms. And he said, not me. And a reward? A $25 million validation. A league now waiting to see where he lands. And a brand that's only growing stronger by the week. So let's finish with this. If you're still doubting the impact of this story, ask yourself one question. Why is everyone in the NFL still talking about a rookie who hasn't played a snap? Because he played the long game. Because he turned down the wrong doors. Because he made it very clear that he's not here to fill a roster spot. He's here to lead one. The question is, which team's going to be smart enough to let him? Let us know what you think in the comments. Should Shedeur Sanders have accepted the Ravens pick? Did the Browns fumble their future yet again? And who do you think is behind the mysterious $25 million offer? Subscribe if you haven't already. We'll be tracking the story every step of the way. Because the Shedeur Sanders era hasn't started yet, but it's already changing everything.